Everyday words and phrases that have racist connotations, okay? Everyday words and phrases that have racist connotations. Now, I'm sure we've heard things like blacklisted, master bedrooms, so on and so forth. Things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and let that hang. I'm gonna let that soak in for a split second. Picture. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go back here and we're just gonna go through some of these. Now again, there will be a blog post where I'm gonna write a whole bunch of stuff about this, but I am gonna, since this is video, I'm gonna just kind of hammer through this just a little bit. Yeah, master bedrooms, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get that. But I do want to just talk about some of these other ones. Now, being blacklisted, right? Blacklisted, black and whitelisted. Whitelisted being preferential, blacklisted being something that you're held off of a list of sorts. Obviously, black meaning bad, good meaning white. So basically the racism is kind of baked into the cake. So whenever you associate a word with like black something, as in like a list, of course, that is something. Now, blacklists and whitelists are something that they use in tech to describe, let's see, and we'll go through the article. It says blacklist, whitelist. In tech, a blacklist refers to a directory or specific elements such as an email address, IP addresses, or URLs that are blocked. A whitelist, by contrast, is made up of elements that are allowed. Imagine that. Blacks weren't allowed to play golf. They were only allowed to be caddies. For decades, and we're going to start at Augusta, just because it's famous or infamous for that matter. Says here, for decades, Augusta National Golf Course required that all caddies be black. Also banned black golfers from the Masters tournament until 1975, when Lee Elders broke its color barrier. Black members weren't admitted to the club until 1990, and women weren't admitted until 2012. Fun fact, Condoleezza Rice was the first black woman that was allowed into the Augusta National Golf Club. Fun fact. Okay, peanut gallery. The phrase typically refers to the cheapest seats in the theater and is informally used to describe the critics or hecklers. But what they don't really tell you is that that was the only place where blacks were allowed to watch or see cinema. Okay. So when someone says no comments from the peanut gallery, it implies that a certain group of commentators is rowdy or uninformed. Term dates back to vaudeville era in the late 19th century, referred to sections of theater where black people typically sat. Being grandfathered in, and it's actually a legal term. It's in the law, okay? The legal term broadly refers to grandfather clause. Let me do this. I'm gonna kind of step out of the way. All right, so in law, grandfathered in. This is a legal term broadly refers to the grandfather clause adopted by southern states during the Reconstruction era. Under it, anyone who was able to vote before 1867 was exempt from the literacy tests, property requirements, and poll taxes needed for voting. But enslaved black people were not freed until 1865, when the 13th Amendment was passed, and weren't granted the right to vote until the 15th Amendment was passed in 1870. The grandfather clause effectively excluded them from voting, a practice that continued until the 1960s, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's let that sink in for a second. Oh, cakewalk. This is a good one. An everyday speech. The cakewalk, because right, an easy victory, something that's easily accomplished. Cakewalk originated as a dance performed by enslaved black people on plantations before the Civil War. It was intended to be a mockery of the way white people danced, though plantation owners often interpreted slaves' movements as unskillful attempts at being like them. Owners held contests in which enslaved people, hold on, let me highlight this really quick because I want to make sure that everybody gets this. Owners held contests which enslaved people competed for a cake. Later, the dance and the idiom was popularized through minstrel shows characterized by a high-legged prance with a backward tilt of the head, shoulders, and upper torso. So, the contest for the cake, they had to do the cake walk. Let that shit sink in for a second while I move on to the next one. Lynch mob, I think we all know what that is and what that means. Being blackballed, I think we all know what that means. I'm gonna end on this one. Being sold down the river. While this phrase now refers to a devastating betrayal, its history is more fraught. In the 1800s, black slaves were literally sold down the river. Slave traders along the Mississippi River selling enslaved people to plantation owners further south. There awaited inhumane conditions and brutal labor that often ended in death. Thus, to be sold down the river was to commence a life of crushing circumstances. According to the Mississippi Encyclopedia, a project from the University of Mississippi Center for the Study of Southern Culture. So, essentially, and this is something that I think that a lot of people are waking up to now, is that it's actually pretty freaking simple. Racism has been baked into the cake, pun intended. I think that the more we educate ourselves, the more we talk about things like this, the more we're able to undo a lot of the things that were done. Thanks guys for joining me on This Shit Is Simple. This is only my second episode. The format is going to change as I get more comfortable and as I start to figure out how I want to get you guys information and figure out how long I want these things to be. Bear with me. Share it with your friends. If you have ideas and things that you'd like to try, if there's observations and things that you see that you notice, feel free to reach out. Yeah. So all that being said, I'm out of here till the next time. Erykah Badu said it best. I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit.